The rain had been falling for hours, hammering the car like a shower of stones. Visibility dropped to nothing, and the four friends, Arav, Mina, Raghav, and Tia, were forced off the highway onto a lonely hill road. The night grew colder, the fog thicker, and before they realized what was happening, the car skidded violently. One tire burst, the vehicle spun sideways, and it slammed into a fallen tree with a dull, sickening thud. No one was injured, but the engine sputtered, coughed twice, and died. They stepped out into the freezing rain, shivering, drenched, and hopelessly stranded. When they checked their phones, none had signal. That's when Mina pointed at something dim glowing through the fog, a flickering signboard that read, "Skyview Resort, 500 meters." With no other option, they grabbed their bags and walked through the storm until the building rose before them. The resort looked abandoned, tall, covered in vines, its lights weak and trembling. The rusted bell near the entrance echoed unnaturally loud when Raghav pressed it. After a long moment, the heavy door creaked open to reveal an old man with pale, expressionless eyes and a stiff smile. "Welcome to Skyview Resort," he said quietly. "You must be lost." Despite their unease, they followed him inside. The moment they stepped across the threshold, the door slammed shut behind them, though no one had touched it. Inside, the air felt too still, the silence too complete. Mina noticed the guest ledger on the reception table. Every name written there was crossed out. Everyone except one line at the bottom. Room 107, still inside. They were given 2 rooms on the same floor. That night, weird things began happening almost immediately. Mina woke to the sound of slow, dragging footsteps outside their door. When she opened it, the hallway was empty, but the carpet was soaked with fresh, wet footprints leading directly to room 107. At the same time, in the other room, Tia woke to whispering voices coming from inside the closet. The whispers grew louder, layered, until it sounded like several people breathing inside. When she watched in terror, the closet door began to open on its own. Something shifted inside the darkness. By morning, the storm had only worsened. Arav discovered their room door was locked from the outside. No matter how hard they tried, it wouldn't budge. Only after a long, tense minute did the old man unlock it and call them downstairs for breakfast. The corridor felt different now. The mirrors on the walls no longer reflected them properly. Instead of their faces, they saw blurred silhouettes, and behind each silhouette, something tall and shadow-like stood watching. When they reached the dining hall, the old man hovered silently near the wall. 4 plates of food waited for them, but he said he didn't eat. When Arav asked if they could use a phone or find a nearby village, the man responded flatly, "No one lives near the hill anymore. People moved away, after the incident." When they pressed him about it, the old man finally spoke. 20 years ago, a family had checked into room 107, a couple and their young daughter. In the middle of the night, the girl screamed loudly enough to wake the entire floor. When guests rushed to the room, the parents had vanished completely. Not a trace remained, as if they had been erased from existence. The girl sat alone, trembling, whispering that her parents were inside the walls, still talking to her. Every guest who stayed in room 107 afterward disappeared one by one. "They never checked out," the old man whispered. "And some nights, we still hear them." His eyes drifted nervously to the dark corridor behind them, especially when new guests arrive. At that moment, the lights flickered violently. The old man stepped back, fear in his eyes. "Stay here," he said. "Don't go into the hallway." But before anyone could speak, Tia gasped and pointed. At the far end of the corridor, room 107's door was wide open. They had all seen it closed just minutes earlier. Something moved inside the darkness of that room, something dragging itself slowly into view. A tall, twisted figure stepped out, its limbs unnaturally long, its head tilted at an impossible angle. Water dripped from its feet, leaving fresh footprints on the carpet. Mina recognized them instantly. These were the same wet footprints she had seen the night before. The creature lifted its head. Instead of eyes, it had 2 hollow black pits that seemed to swallow the light. When it opened its mouth, its voice was deep and layered, like multiple people speaking from inside the walls. "You shouldn't have come here. it whispered. The old man backed away as if he knew what came next. The walls around them began to move, softly at first, then more violently, like something trapped inside was pushing to get out. Whispering voices filled the hall, growing louder and louder, calling names, crying, begging. The silhouettes in the mirrors began to grow clearer, forming the shapes of the missing guests, their faces stretched in silent screams. The temperature dropped so suddenly that everyone's breath turned into fog. The figure from room 107 stepped closer, its voice echoing through the building. Everyone who enters, stays. Behind it, other shadows began crawling out of the open room, dozens of them, their bodies twisted, their hands reaching. The old man whispered, "Run," but he didn't follow. The friends raced toward the exit, the walls pulsing and voices wailing around them. When they reached the main door, it refused to open. The building itself seemed alive, fighting to keep them inside. Arav slammed his shoulder into the wood repeatedly, until, with a violent crack, the door burst open and the group tumbled into the storm outside. But as they ran toward the road, Nina glanced back. The resort stood silently in the rain, every window dark, except one. Room 107's window glowed faintly. Inside, a small figure stood watching them, a little girl, smiling. And beside her, two tall shadows slowly placed their hands on her shoulders. The storm swallowed the screams before anyone else could hear them.